Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Lei'd Back Life podcast, where we talk about how to love life, entrepreneurship, and improve daily. Joining me today, Valerie Fenchel. Valerie let me do the bio. She's got a great background. She's the CEO and founder of Fenchel Family Law. Her legal services empower men and women to navigate marriage and divorce towards more vibrant futures. She advises clients, devises strategies, and works with therapists, actuaries, and forensic accountants to settle or litigate cases. As a witness to the damage caused by divorce over the course of her career as a family law attorney and educator, she's gained extensive experience in helping families in crisis. And the other side of that I'm going to add, she does a really good job building great culture at her company through people being virtual, being together, all those things, as from the standpoint of saying yes as much as possible. And I'm so excited to talk to her about the as much as possible, because if you're anything like me, you either say yes too much or too little. And so I'm super excited to have this chat with you today.
Thanks for having me, Jordan. I'm excited to contribute.
Yeah, thanks for being with us. Look, we all have wonderful things that we can share with each other. And I just you frame this office culture thing so well. So we're going to get into that, but let's back up a little bit. What led you to family law and eventually opening up your own firm?
Yeah, it was something I thought I would never do. I thought I was going to be a prosecutor in law school, which was not very popular with my parents, as I was raised super liberal Jewish, Yeah, I was super passionate. I was a failed musical theater child where I just wasn't good at it, even though I liked the attention. So I thought I could apply that to performing in court on these big criminal cases. But I had a couple internships where I was really not too excited about being a prosecutor afterwards. So I tried civil litigation and I was too bored. So I got into family law. It's something actually my mother had a family law firm. So I got into it. And once I worked for a family law firm, I felt really connected with the cases and the clients where I couldn't go back. I realized that was kind of what I was built to do. So then I started practicing family law, and eventually I wanted the independence, I guess, and the autonomy to grow my own firm without having a boss.
Okay, wait. Were your parents specific about the no prosecutor thing?
It was just like little looks at I mean,
I have a
that's just
Jewish mother
who
as
we are.
well, so I
It's just
get
who
that
we are.
part.
If anything, they probably want me a public defender, but they also didn't want me I'd have to interview someone, and I tried interning for the public defender, and I was like interviewing someone in prison about his preferences for his rehab program. My dad was like, "What are you doing, sweetheart?" They're a little worried about my safety, I guess, or they just didn't want their child I was in DC, working on child abuse murder cases. I had to review autopsy photos of dead babies. I don't think that was what they envisioned when they were carrying me out of the hospital.
So your entire life they told you to be a lawyer, and then as you got there, they were like, and a specific type of lawyer.
Yeah, maybe fight for civil rights, Val. But yeah.
So funny. All right, excuse me. So we're gonna go deeper into your story a little bit. I want to talk about last week's episode. Last week we had Kendra Nero on. For those that don't know, she runs Brand Spark Studio, helping people get their message out there through social media in a way that feels real and authentic. So we talked about how a great life is a great brand, how living a better life lets you have better stories, lets you produce better content, lets you be more of a human through, the interwebs and whatnot. So check that one out after this. You mentioned your mom had a family law firm, and then you worked at some other ones before you opened up your own firm for the autonomy. Tell me a little bit more about that part of your journey.
Yeah, I mean, after I graduated law school, I had a hard time finding a job. So she had asked me if I wanted to work for her, and I just knew that was a non-starter. I wanted to spread my wings and figure out my own life. Yeah, I did construction law for a little bit, but I just couldn't get into the glazing and whatever else. So eventually I got a job at a family law firm where I'd intern for the summer, and I really liked it. But then I switched to a smaller firm that was more boutique, that was run by this amazing woman who I kind of thought of her as my second mom. And I watched her run her firm with levity and happiness and creativity and just being her full self. And I think that was really inspiring to me. And I don't know, it helped me kind of see myself also as doing that as well. And it made me realize that boss of a law firm doesn't need to look a certain way.
I love that because so many of our clients have so many of our clients, so many of our guests have the opposite. They had terrible bosses and were like, I don't want to be anything like that. So I love that you had this shining example of a great boss to be more yourself.
Yeah, I'm very lucky.
How long have you had your own firm?
Almost 9 years.
So if you could go back on day one and tell yourself some piece of advice, some wisdom, something over the last 9 years, what would you want to let yourself know?
I've thought about this because I've like gotten into posting on LinkedIn and what can I post to get people like engaged? And honest, nothing. There's absolutely nothing because I just feel like every year I learn something new. And if you had told me all of the fire drills I would have to get through to get to where I am, I'm worried I wouldn't have done it. But I think I've learned to just trust my intuition. So maybe I would say you are the one that knows how to build your firm more than anybody else, more than any coaching program, more than any consultant, more than any employee. Like you know what's right. Because I think like that's been kind of my anthem the past 8.5 years. And I think that maybe questioning myself, especially like going through being pregnant and birthing kids and stuff, like it's hard to continue to have that steady or, so I think that maybe that's something I would say, like trust your gut, Val.
I
But
love that.
I think I could say, this is what you must do. This is how to succeed.
Well, so I'm a year or so ahead of you from the firm side. And so I was like, hey, I would tell myself it gets better when you make changes to make it better. So, because like I totally agree with you. I hate the whole like this one specific thing that makes sense for me now. Like I like the more meta answer. Sorry. It is so cold here today. Like it's like that one day where it's cold and I am just anyway.
We're having that
Um,
too. It's like cool weather kind of yesterday, and now everyone's in long sleeves and jackets again. Like it's hard to keep track this season for sure.
yes. So, but I love your answer of the like not wanting to avoid any of your mistakes or situations you learn from because like it helped you get where you are. That's such a great thought process.
Yeah, painful but worthwhile, right? Mhm.
When did you first start bringing on staff?
Right away. Uh,
Okay.
I was really into watching Shark Tank. For I got obsessed with it, and I get obsessed with things, and I just like I wanted to build a company. So yeah, right away I hired a bunch of people, and I didn't have kids, and I had all the time and energy to dedicate to figuring this out and failing forward. And yeah, it's kind of crazy looking back. Most of my old firm's files were hard copy files, and I had like this whole scanning team of interns I hired to like scan everything and figure out how to organize it. And, I had contract attorneys, and yeah, it was pretty cool to learn how you can leverage the top talent to get a better result than you even could imagine as a full-time associate attorney, just trying to do your best, right?
I'm in a bunch of online groups, and there's always these people that talk about how miserable it is for their firm and how much they hate running it. And people give some really helpful advice. But I have not come across a book that incorporates all those things in one place. So I wrote it. Stories of some of my coaching clients. In there, though, you're also going to find our specific meeting agendas. You're going to provide how to put together a marketing plan. I really, truly poured my heart and soul into this book. I hope you'll check it out in the link below and enjoy it and ultimately get a chance to run the law firm you've always dreamed of.
What? Because I don't want to give you the same like you learn from it. So let's flip it this way. What would you say to help more people launching their firm hire staff sooner or on day one? Because I see people waiting way too long and having that be such a problem.
Um, I think it's a mindset. I think that a lot of solo attorneys are very, we're risk averse. We went to law school, So I think when they hire people, they see what's the worst case scenario that's going to happen, and they're very afraid. And as a result, they micromanage their employees and they don't give them the benefit of the doubt. But also from the immaturity of never hiring before, you just hire the wrong people at the beginning because you don't know better. Or maybe you get super lucky. Like I got really lucky sometimes, and I got some really great people too. But I mean, it's just luck of the draw. And I feel like, especially during your first hires, you put so much of you into how is this person doing? Am I being a good boss? Like they're screwing up so much. Do I let this go? I don't want to be mean, because you haven't really developed not just who you are as a boss, but also what your company stands for, what service standards you're going to maintain. You don't know any of that because you're solo. And it's all about you. And if your company is about who you are and how you are with people, then you don't have service standards. You just have your gut, right? And you can't really, no one's going to read your mind, unfortunately, right? Just like your spouse can't read your mind, unfortunately. And your kids kind of can sometimes, but your employees definitely cannot. So I think like it's realizing that it's a game, right? It's a game that you need to figure out, just like you figured out how to provide the best legal services to clients. Now you need to figure out how to provide the best environment for employees. And part of that, just like with clients, is picking the right employees, right? And when you don't, like figuring out a way to move them on to the life they're meant to have, which isn't with you. And the second one is once you do find the right employee, like that's not it because you can fail them every day if you expect them to read your mind. So it's putting in writing what it is they need to do every day, what it is you guys stand for. And unfortunately, it's not something you can figure out your first time hiring somebody. It's taken me 8.5 years and I still haven't I don't know all the answers. I think I have a much better idea now of the attorneys that work at my firm and the paralegals. And I'm just starting to learn about what kind of operations people, what kind of marketing people like work out at my firm. Every kind of role you hire is a different, it's a different roadmap. And every kind of personality quirk is a different roadmap, right? I could think I know how to hire attorneys, and then I could get this quirk that I've never had before and have to kind of learn all over again and fall on my face. So I don't think there's a straight answer. It's not as linear as client service, which isn't linear, but it kind of is because it's like you know the recipe kind of, right? Of like how to make a client happy, and if their expectations are not aligned, then how to offload them. So it's the same thing with managing employees. But I also think that solo practitioners put so much of their time and energy still into client management that they just don't have the time and space to dedicate to being a good employer. And so I think,
Sure.
at least for me, a big part of it was not doing the legal work so that I could truly focus on, being a good leader.
So you mentioned something, I don't, it was the beginning of this answer or the previous question about like the situations where there's something done incorrectly and like basically you framed it as like, is this a teaching moment or do I fire this person? Can you walk me through that analysis? Like how do you make that decision? Because I mean, I know I struggle with it. I'm sure plenty of people listening do as well.
Yeah. I think I've hired a bunch of people and some have lasted and a lot haven't. And just because someone hasn't lasted at my firm doesn't mean they've been fired, right? Most of the time people kind of self-select that, oh, this just isn't right because I don't want to maintain these service standards. I don't want to have to respond to clients same day or next day. That's just not who I am, or I don't want to have to give clients written emails summarizing each conversation. That stresses me out. That's not how I practice law. Okay, cool. Bye. But I think that it's been a learning curve for me. I think anytime I hire somebody where we don't seem to have a meeting of the minds because common sense isn't common, and it's what my common sense is different than yours, right? There's nothing that's just this universal, everyone should know about this. And so as someone hasn't done what I've expected, I've created a policy and procedure about it. And it's honestly, at first I thought it was for the employee to learn what they were supposed to do, but I actually realized it was for me to learn what I should expect because I'm the one,
Mm,
right? No one else really remembers the stuff I write down. I mean, who knows if they read it, right? I hope so. But I think it's more for me. It's my own Bible of like what my company stands for. And as I build that up by seeing what people are doing that doesn't align, it helps me reassess an employee. And it's like, hey, if you really, really care about clients, if you have high emotional intelligence, if you're telling me the hard truth you're telling clients that they don't agree with, and then you're navigating these tough situations in a manner that I respect, I want to keep you. I want to keep you happy. I want to keep you in a position where you feel successful. And I used to ask employees like about what do you want in the next 5 years, personally, professionally, this, that, and like that's all great, but it doesn't really mean anything, honestly, in my eyes. It's more about a vibe. Like I want them to feel like grateful and happy to be at my firm. And that's not something you can do just with a paycheck, although I think it should be very generous. But I think it's also how you communicate with people and how you treat people. And when they ask you for something, it's saying yes as much as possible, right?
I want to dive into that, but like you're just there's so much good info that you're sharing here. So
I'm probably talking for more than 30 seconds, Jordan. My timer stopped working. Let's see. Go ahead.
okay. For everybody else, Val asked me for the episode how to, how to be a great guest. And I said, we're going to make some shorts. So some of your answers are, 30 seconds or less. So then Val pulls out a phone and starts, timing herself on some of these answers. So you are the first guest who's ever done that, but I appreciate the commitment. So it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to put words in your mouth. It sounds like you've got like the core value thing, like are they trying to follow that North Star versus did they mess up this one task and now we can create an SOP? Like is that sort of your difference in keeping and training?
Yeah, and also if they mess something up, do they take personal responsibility? Are they someone that's learning from this and growing? Or are they super defensive where it's like, all these clients just suck? And it's like, oof, right? Like it's about a mindset. But I've also learned that people can grow and change, and it's about how you coach and talk through things. So, I don't think it's so black and white. I've learned honestly, it doesn't sound very like pragmatic, but I think it's like it's a gut feeling too, right?
Sure, but we need but lawyers ruin everything, right? Like we can't just follow our gut because we need some sort of like you didn't fire this person for some improper reason or
Totally.
whatever else it is. So I think
Yeah,
it's a balance.
definitely.
I do always think it's funny the amount of firms that say they're client focused, and I'm always like, no, we're employee focused because my employee will work with all the clients. And like, if one client says one of my employees was mean to them, I'm like, well, there are 1,000 other clients who didn't say that, so it was probably you. Versus if you have multiple complaints about the same thing, then it becomes a little bit more serious of an issue.
Yeah, I think that's one thing I really learned maybe the past couple years is you're right. Like I'm not actually in the client service business. I'm in the employee happiness business because if I can attract the best top talent, nothing else matters. When you have the right people, you don't have to worry about the day-to-day operations of how they're handling stuff because if they share your mission and values and they're your kind of people, like it just makes your life so much easier and it makes the value you provide to your community so much higher. So I think that's a huge change in my mindset that's happened. I think that's super valid.
Do you have a story that helped you make that change in your perspective?
Honestly, just having two kids like super close
Eh,
together. I feel
Listen,
like
I want to write a book on treating my employees like my child. And like big disclaimer, not treating them like a child, right? Because like we look at our kids in this weird, we want the best for them and we want to support them and we want them to fail the right amount and we want them to learn the right lesson for long-term success at like all, 27 different balances. And if you can really put all your employees through that, it's so hard to have bad employees.
Yeah, I mean, I relate it to parenthood as I just my ego's out of it and I'm on the sidelines enjoying the ride. Like, an employee's success is not my success, it's their success, and they need to be celebrated for it. Just like my kid, like kicking the soccer ball, right? Like, yeah, he's mine. Like I did something inside my body to get him to where he is. But like, and I try to be a good parent, but like when he has a win, it's his win, right? And it's about celebrating him, making him feel spectacular, and he's not biting his sister, which is also a win in that moment. But yeah, same with employees. I think like I had two kids 18 months apart and it was a lot while doubling my business and it was just a lot. And so I think when your energy and your time is so much smaller than it used to be, I had to figure out how to make the most of that and still do a good job for the people that I'm responsible for. So for me, that was really being super thoughtful about which people I'd allow on the seats of my bus, of my business. And I did use an HR consultant for a little bit who taught me about the seats on the bus phrase, where I was like, ooh, that's really smart, because I honestly, I see learning how to be a good employer, kind of like learning how I found my husband, right? Like you're gonna have a lot of weird dates with people that don't align with
Ah,
who you
I was
are.
curious where you were going with that.
And every weird date, I learn from it, right? Like, okay, Val, you're not into this. Okay, that's kind of cool, right? Like every relationship you have, you learn from it. And I think like learning how to be a good employer is it's learning how to cultivate those kind of relationships and learning what's a good match for you based on who you show, what's your personality type. Like I'm into the Enneagram, or like kind of how do we make this whole? How do we operate all together? And it's more complicated than, well, I don't know if it's more complicated than having a spouse because that's kind of complicated. But it's a different kind of complication because it's multiple people and you have to be the leader of them, right? So yeah, but I do think it just honestly, I think reps is a big piece of it. Just as many reps as you can and not giving yourself too much grief and having grace and trying to learn from every experience you have.
We'll see. Okay, so my son was going in, I think my son was in kindergarten, and my wife looked at me, and I wish I remembered the exact quote, but basically she was like, I think I finally have a couple extra F's to give now, like now that our child's in school. And so when you framed it as with the kids, I was like, oh yeah, all right, I'm picking up what you're putting down. And it was interesting because you mentioned like, oh, but with your employees versus your spouse. But like at the end of the day, my perspective is I have one spouse. I have an unlimited number of, well, I guess a number of employees limited by how many I have. But like, so you end up having to, I can be more quality with my wife, but I have to be more quantity with my employees because there's more of them.
Hmm.
I don't know
Yeah,
if you have that
I
same
mean,
perspective.
honestly, in my life right now, I don't feel like I can be quality or quantity with my poor husband because we just have like endless chaos at our house with a 2 and 3 year old. But and two crazy dogs. But I feel like, yeah, it's kind of just like how I show up. Like I don't know how many times I'll be able to, but I just try to show up as much as I can with my employees with grace and patience and kindness and try to because for me, like when I do find a really like fire employee that's like, wow, I want to keep them around. I know they're not a dime a dozen. I know it's like my husband, where they're like very special, and I want to treat them like the special snowflake they are, and make sure that they're happy, and they need to perform and do their job, But like, I want this to be this place where they can really plant roots and feel like they're growing and thriving, and not like I'm micromanaging and still kind of cut their teeth on stuff. So I think it's it goes both ways. I think to me, like managing employees isn't top down, right? It's like a collaboration as long as you have the right people.
So I want to dive into that because like you talked about attracting, but I think retaining talent is more important. I want to talk about this week's newsletter first, though, because if you all are watching this when the episode drops, it's Tuesday. This Friday, the newsletter is why you're still doing too much and how to fix it. And don't worry, I wrote the newsletter for myself just as much as you. So we are all in this together. I know that'll be fun. So coming back to, you mentioned attract the talent and having a great HR person getting lucky, but like keeping the person who's the great ideal fit, because like other people are trying to attract them and poach them and whatnot. So like walk me through some of what you're doing to retain this top talent.
Yeah, I think I learned from my mistakes. Like I'm in the process of creating or solidifying our non-equity and equity partnership track at my firm, because I believe that attorneys that, show up and perform in the manner that in my fantasy of the way that I want my attorneys to operate with my clients is something that I want to keep and maintain. And I also I'm not looking to be the queen of the castle. I'm looking to elevate like people that have seats at my table in a more of a partnership kind of vibe. So by having that mindset and, creating those kind of handbooks or I don't know, playbook for what they can expect, I think that kind of helps keep people around so that they feel like, wow, ventral family law is really unique. Like I'm not working for someone that is a top performing attorney that has her ego in it that wants to put me below her. I'm working for someone that's just running the business. So Valerie's only desire is to elevate me and make me feel special and make me feel like, I'm in charge of my own pod of other attorneys and paralegals, whatever it is, and I can really grow. And I want to create an experience, or I think I'm creating an experience for attorneys where, it's arguably better than starting their own firm, right? And having to put out their own shingle. But if anyone works for me and they want to do that, that's okay too, right? I'm not trying to make people feel forced into this seat. It has to go both ways. I think that's like that with any position at the firm. It's just kind of listening to my employees and really understanding what they want and what they need, because they're each a special snowflake. I don't think everybody is the same. Like I see some firms doing these big retreats where they go somewhere for 5 nights, and I thought, oh gosh, am I failing that I don't do that? And I asked all my employees, and none of them want that, you know? So I think it's putting your ego aside, knowing you don't know what's best, and actually asking people what they want, but also knowing that you're their employer. So sometimes they're not going to tell you the truth because there is this power dynamic no matter what. So it's kind of feeling it out too, and making sure they're not just telling you what you want to hear.
All right, I have to get on my soapbox because you're the first person who's been vocal about something that I yell at people. I, we're in these Facebook groups online. The worst post I have ever seen, and it happens consistently, it's not a specific post. It's like, what should I get my employees for gifts for the holiday? What's everybody else doing for the gifts for the holidays? And I'm always like, just ask them. Ask them what they want. Like the Jam of the Month Club is not for everybody. The taking the 5-day retreat is not for everybody. Thank you so much. Because like sometimes I feel so alone in the there isn't this one random gift that some other law firm owner is going to tell me is perfect for all the employees. Oh my God, ask them.
It used to
Please continue
really
to ask
nerd out
them.
on that too. I used to think about that constantly. It used to drive so much of my thoughts. Like, how can I gift best? Because I don't know. I thought that was part of like showing love for my employees. And I let that go because I've learned that not everyone even likes gifts, actually, So I try to default to cash unless it's like some like I don't know, like I sent everyone like a little Harry and David pears and cookies for Halloween. If it's like a little thing, great, right? But I don't want to like if someone gets me a luxury item and I don't want it, I just have to store it somewhere. It's super annoying. So I don't
Right.
want to do that to someone else, right?
No, I totally agree. And it's, you know, Gary Chapman wrote the five love languages, and then there's like the four languages of appreciation in the workplace. So like physical touch is probably not the one to is the one that gets dropped. But it's fascinating to me because like most of my employees want quality time with us. And I'm like, you can have time off, we can do this. Like, no, like let's go ziplining, let's go kayaking, let's go like do these things, let's go do escape rooms as a group. I'm like, all right, cool. Like it's what I want to do and you want to do it too. Like let's versus I don't know, a gift card versus extra time off versus whatever anybody else does because it's right for somebody.
Yeah, like we do this big like photo and video shoot once a year for our branding. And I always thought of it as work for everyone. And I asked about it and they're like, oh no, that's like our team building. We love that. And then we go to dinner afterwards. So I was like, okay, that counts great. So it's just right. It's like having those kind of conversations and not assuming that you know best.
When I first started my firm, my dream was to be able to clone myself so that I could do everything. At some point, I realized that was my nightmare, and that's when my firm achieved actual success. Because I'm good at some things and terrible at most things. So it's not about replicating me. It's about finding and hiring people whose talents are my weaknesses. If you want a chance to get a copy of that and implement it, including how to incorporate AI and other modern technology, click the link below and buy our hiring process SOP and ultimately find success a lot faster than I did.
What other things would you advise firm owners in building great office culture?
Yeah, I think you know, I, it's changed over time. I think when I was a smaller firm and I maybe had 5 employees, we were all tight. It felt more like a family where I would overshare about what was going on in my life and whatever else, and I would get all the nuggets back. And it just felt smaller and less corporate. But now I think we're a firm of 12, and that's not that big. But when you're the manager of all 12 people, it's a lot, and I think it's less about oversharing about me and what's going on with me. And it's more about, taking that back seat and learning about what's going on with all of them. And I think it's also about, like really paying attention to how they engage with each other and really supporting that in order to build leaders and giving positive encouragement as much as possible, not just about each individual's performance, but about how each individual employee is a leader for others and how they show up in that capacity and kind of creating a culture of, positivity and a culture of, enhancing and applauding any behavior, anything that I like, right? Because they can't read my mind. I honestly haven't really gotten great at whatever, EOS recommends certain cadence of meetings or different leaders. I haven't gotten good at that. For me, I'm still on the checking in random phone calls. How's it going? I know we talked about this. Like, is this going better? And I hope in the next year to change that because maybe it's better to have set agendas, but right now I just kind of more feel people out and check in with them. But also I try to give people a seat at the table as much as possible. Like if I'm not sure about some sort of business decision, I'll ask my paralegal because she knows what's up sometimes, or I'll ask an associate attorney and I'll try to be inclusive. Because I think that's a piece of it too. I think when you're a fast growing company, there's a certain joy of being, like going on this roller coaster wave sometimes, right? Sometimes it sucks. But if it's the joy part,
If
I
it's the right person, you know, in the right
well,
seat, or you'll make the right seat.
you still gonna have a sucky time growing a business, no matter who the people are. There's still, things along the way, hurdles. But I think the more you can, include them in the highs and the joy and the wins, I think can also kind of have a positive effect on the people that work for you or they want to, stay working for you. Another thing I do is every year I have everyone over in my backyard for like a fancy dinner. And I really like it because it's like, hey, this is the chaos I live in, everyone, just so you know, like, 'cause I have toddler toys everywhere. But, it's also like, it feels really personal and it helps me, honestly, really connect with each employee. Just like, I don't know, like being in my backyard and eating a good meal together and getting to know their spouses. Cause, we're in the people business more than anything else, right?
Well, and the more AI advances, the more I think we're in the human connection business.
Totally. Yeah. Although, ChatGPT has become like, my boyfriend on the side. I use it all the time and I'm a very big fan. But yeah, I mean, I think that the human piece and the expert professional piece, in my mind, is a piece that cannot be replicated by a robot.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's like there was somebody who posted the like I don't want ChatGPT to make my art for me so I can do my laundry. I want ChatGPT to fold my laundry so I can do art. And so like I I use it all the time, but I love when you're identifying the, getting in the backyard and connecting human to human. Like that's the stuff that we should maximize our time with, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
So when you mentioned something earlier, you were talking about your employees and like exhibiting leadership, and I wasn't sure if you meant that from the standpoint of like finding that middle management set of leaders at your office, or if you meant like as everybody works together on things, people are going to lead on something and follow on others.
Yeah, I think it depends. I've kind of learned that everyone can be a leader. And it just a leader of what, right? Like I have an associate
Mm,
attorney that's incredible in how she leads clients. And she does it in this very softer way. She's not like authoritarian, but clients love her. We're doing like figuring out how to do video testimonials and getting our crew of clients together. And it's like obviously hers will want to do it. And it's like how she shows up, right? And it's like applauding her for that, or yeah, it's like I just hired a managing attorney and it's really helping her uh, grow into what that could look like for her and building it out and kind of having all these different conversations and teaching, not even teaching, but kind of telling her what worked for me in like training an associate attorney and letting her decide what pieces of that she wants to take and what she wants to leave. And yeah, like actually block by block training a leader, right? To show up in the way that I hope. It's also just, having employees give positive encouragement for others or, asking employees, if they're managing another employee, like, do you have a development plan for this person? What have you trained them on? And learning because some people enjoy that. Some people enjoy training others and managing, and some people absolutely hate it. So, as much as it's about building leaders, it's also making sure people are in the right seats because maybe somebody doesn't want to manage other people. Maybe, though, they want to manage our brand in the community and referral sources and colleagues, and that's the kind of leader they want to be, right? I don't think there's one like set roadmap or set of credentials on what being a leader in a law firm has to look like.
sure. Well, and that's you mentioned Traction a couple of times. Like I love the accountability chart from Traction and the concept that you can put one person in multiple seats. And so I tell my whole staff, I'm like, look, from the point of me creating content, I'm the bottom of the rung. Like you all tell me what to do, have the stuff organized, do this, and like I will show up and do it. Whereas like I will help you ideate as the CEO over here, but like when it's content creation, like that's gonna happen right there as if I am your employee. And so it's interesting to see where people are different hierarchies with the same person.
Totally. Yeah, and I think we all have different personalities, right? I had my employees take the Enneagram test just to kind of learn them better and, how they show up and what their priorities are. And that kind of helps me too. Like, oh, she's a 6. Okay, my best friend's a 6. Okay, I got your number, literally. And then you can kind of iterate from there. But yeah, I think it's really holding space to really get to know who the people are that work for you if they're the right fit, right? And then figuring out kind of how to grow together, because they're not the only ones growing. I'm growing a lot too. Like whenever I get any asks from my employees that make me feel like, what are they doing? Why would they ask me that? I want to say no based on principle. Whenever I hear myself say on principle, I know I'm the one that's super screwed up. So then I have to like breathe and think through, how can I get them to where they want to go? Why am I so like triggered by this? Like what's going on with me? Because a lot of times when you're managing people, it's about weird stuff in your makeup or what you've experienced in the past and kind of getting through that so you're not like giving, someone else the wrong answer and putting them down when you should really be like lifting them up.
And just for clarity for anybody who doesn't know Enneagrams, like the numbers are not better or worse. It's just each number has different breakdowns. So like saying somebody's a 6 is not a bad thing. It's just specific to them.
Yeah, a 6 is someone that's like a gazelle in the woods, constantly looking for like problems, which can be really awesome in a divorce attorney because then they're always creating a roadmap of success, despite the obstacles. And it can be really great for a leader, but it's just like knowing, okay, this is how I don't want to push this person's buttons, or okay, this is where this person's coming from. And when I was dating to find a husband, I found this book about the Enneagram and how like the different numbers kind of relate to each other, where people gave feedback of like, oh, I'm a 1, and this is how I got through it with my 7 husband or whatever. And I use that with my employees too. I'll read this book because I just think it's fascinating how much each of our personalities really leads us to these perceived conflicts that really aren't personal conflicts. It's just kind of how we're
Ooh.
made up and how we kind of interact with each other. So if you can do everything you can to not be personally offended by stuff and kind of rise above it, unless it's just someone's behaving badly and doesn't need a seat on the bus kind of thing. Then I think that I don't know, that's kind of how I try to work things out to show up better.
When you had the whole office do their Enneagrams, you said,
Yeah.
did you find like certain numbers showing up more often in your employees, or was there like a decent distribution?
There's a decent distribution.
Oh, okay.
I think 2 was a little more common, like the helper. I think that that's especially in like family law, right? I know that in my core, I feel like I'm a 2, even though it tells me I'm a 3, which I don't appreciate. But I think it's like getting self-esteem from helping others and then like having the self-awareness to know, okay, like let's set a boundary here so that we don't get resentful, but it's a lot of it too as an employer is learning, my own makeup and what makes me tick so that, I show up the way I want to.
Why don't you appreciate being a 3?
I don't know, it just feels so gross. Like, oh, really? You're
Uh,
an achiever? You get self-esteem from achieving? That just sounds so like old white man trying to have control over the world. Like, I'd rather be like a nice helper, just trying to help people get by in their life? It just feels more like good,
inter
That's kind of
interesting. But then
gross.
like sorry, I don't know if I'm super loud on your end. I'm getting feedback. But then like you're running a 12-person firm helping people in divorce. So like you have achieved and with 2 kids and doubling the business. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, for
I
sure.
think achievement is a tool, right? It's what you do with it that I think becomes the judgment part.
Totally. I think after I had my son, I had a hard time with it because I saw building my business as generating revenue and making money to support my family, but I also connected it with not being able to bond as much with my son. So I think that it just created this trigger in me with achievement where I'm like, no, 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 Valerie, I want to be like the soft mom that shows up and is so nurturing. I don't want to be the mom that's like, bye kids, I gotta achieve, So I think it's been this kind of thing that I've kind of worked through this year of how to achieve, which I honestly do really enjoy because I can control my entire environment and nobody is throwing poop at me. But how to kind of balance that with also feeling like I'm showing up as a mom in the way that makes me feel alive and happy.
All right, so now I'm looking up. My therapist sent me my two enneagrams that could be.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
hard to
I think
self-identify.
I'm. I
Yeah,
think
go ahead.
my therapist thinks I'm more a three or an eight, but
Yeah.
more a three. That's why. That's I like. I remember the
Those
three
are not
stuck in my head.
connected. You're either one or the other, Jordan.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
I could see you as a three. I mean, I think I'm a two with a three wing, to be honest with you. And
Okay,
also the thing with the Enneagram is like it's how you operate in times of stress versus in
right.
times of where your mindset's clear and you're not stressed. Like as a two, when if I'm super stressed, I appear as an eight where I want to control everything. But if I'm relaxed and zen or whatever, then I'm a four, which is like an artist where I just want to be super creative. Which is like what makes me the happiest. Like if I'm writing something creative or if I'm creating like a workflow or if I'm this like visionary part of me where I want to like where when I outline what my business is going to look like, it's like it kind of fills me up in a way that the controlling someone's day doesn't, right? So it's kind of figuring out those levers too, and what that means for you, I guess.
If your idea of vacation means checking emails from a chair in a different state, you don't have a business. You have a terrible job. Most of the time, it's because we have no vision and we're doing everything. I coach firm owners out of the day-to-day and into more of a CEO type role. Ultimately, they end up doing less in the business, doing more for having a great life, and then we tie that back into a way that actually grows their business. When you're ready to make that switch, click the link below to book a call with me and let's see how we can work together to help you achieve the life you've always dreamed of.
Makes sense. All right, so I want to get back to like you made this point about saying yes as much as possible, as much as you can. And obviously with 11 other employees, with kids, with a spouse, like how do you determine that is boundary the right word? How do you
Yeah,
determine the amount of yes?
as much as I can. I know that sounds weird, but like with everything, with compensation, with responsibilities, with scope of work, with some attorneys not wanting to take on certain kinds of clients, with people wanting, well, I guess here's a no. I guess here's an example of a no. Like,
Sure.
like we use Slack for everything. And it's kind of our bloodline of how we communicate about projects and cases. And I've had people try to start at my firm that just didn't want to use Slack. And I tried to accommodate that, but I learned I can't. Like that's a lifeline of my firm, and that's a yes or no. And I've learned the non-negotiables, right? Like I've learned you have to have experience being fully remote and being very quick to respond and knowing what that feels and looks like from home to be successful at my firm. And if you're unwilling or unable to do that, you don't belong on this bus, and that's just a no from me. You have to be able to use Slack in all our systems, or else it's a no. You have to be able to provide the high level of excellence to clients, not just in court wins, but in how you communicate on a regular basis with strategy and how you hold space for clients as a human. That's a non-negotiable for me. And I think it's by creating my list of non-negotiables that's allowed me to so freely say yes to everything else because I know
Mm,
that's where I stand. And I think with the financial asks, like I try to squeeze as much as I can out of my business to compensate my employees. And I know like it can't be to my detriment because I can't fail as a business because then nobody's employed because that wouldn't really be fun for anyone. But like, as I get more talented people, I have to understand that my mindset of what compensation should be at a law firm needs to change too. Because, I have to keep the best people and especially the landscape in the Bay Area, it's not like anywhere else. So it's having a very open mind. And yeah, saying yes. If people want more resources, if people want more help, it's saying yes as much as possible, as long as it's something that I can do. And I think a big piece of it for me is taking time to think it through. I used to just have employee meetings and make decisions right then and there. And I mean, that's nice because it's off your plate, but then did you handle it well? So I take time to really think these through. Sometimes I get back to them in a week. Sometimes I get back to them in a month if it's something that's really complicated for me, because I want to do everything I can to have my response be yes and not no.
Well, and it's interesting, like uh, earlier in this conversation, you were talking about like between the training up and the firing, like if they're focused on the core values, the big picture. And so now you're saying like, all right, focusing on the no's leaves me with the rest of the space for yeses or figuring out how to make it work. So like there's a ton of wisdom in there that we can unpack for people.
Yeah, and I think honestly, a big piece of it is coming up with the performance metrics of the job. Like for the attorney role, for the paralegal role, I have this long Google Doc that I created of everything my mind could put into what was needed in that position. And it was before I started using ChatGPT, so it's super authentic. So I'm sure it could be improved. Um, who knows, though, it could hallucinate. But and I think it's doing that with every position and getting so much clarity on what this person needs to do. So then as long as they're doing those things, then it just makes the yes easier, I think.
But do you expect them to know that whole document?
I used to, but as I said, I have learned nobody reads my stuff. Just like my husband, I'll like, I had this blog when I was after I failed the bar the first time that I find absolutely hilarious. And I asked him to read it and he was not interested. Nobody wants to read my stuff as much as I do, right? So, like I know it. And I think like the more I talk to them about it, the more they're going to know it. But I should never expect them to have it memorized because it's my standards for them. It's not their standards for themselves, which are going to be totally separate, right?
But by having it written down, that it's easier to refer back to when there's a disagreement or whatever conflict.
Totally. And for me, if I think of myself as a people pleaser, which I can be in my head, I think of it as okay, I already put the Bible in here. This is our rules, so I don't feel hesitancy about enforcing it because I already shared it with you. We've talked about it multiple times, so I don't feel guilty or any of those feelings. It's just like you either did it or you didn't. It's not as gray.
But see, like that's what I see being, well, I guess the two positives I see about AI going forward is accessibility, but then two is that, like, hey, if you took your, the Bible that you've spelled out for all these jobs and punched it into its own GPT, and then somebody else was like, hey, I got this task, I'm not sure what to do, this is what I'm considering, it would like reference back to what that underpinning is and say, like, hey, yeah, this meets with what Valerie has explained as the bedrock of the job, the foundations, the non-negotiables, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't trust that.
Okay, got
I don't
it.
know. I mean, maybe I should, but I just feel like, and maybe I'm just not, I don't know enough about AI. I guess I see AI as a mirror of me and how I show up. So like I'll like have it draft a policy and procedure, I'll have it draft like a job description, or I'll have it draft like a LinkedIn post for me, and I'll always ask like, what's the worst thing that could happen from this? Like, what am I missing? But even by asking that, I feel like it doesn't know the whole universe. And it's possible that I could train like an AI bot to know exactly who I am and my wants and needs and expectations. But to be honest with you, I think they're evolving. And I think that how I feel about an employee's behavior today is going to be much different than 2 years from now because we're going to
Oh,
have,
you're evolving. Okay,
yeah, like we'll probably have grown
good.
significantly and I'll have a different mindset about things because I know like how I respond to employees today is so different than how I did like 2 years ago. So I don't really trust an AI bot to mirror that as we go forward. But maybe I'm super close-minded and that is the wave of the future, right? And if it is great, because then none of us have to manage. Yay, right? So it just kind of depends.
Well, I mean, look, Gary Vee talks about there's a whatever it is, 10, $50 billion industry around like eat less and exercise more, right? Like even if we know the answers, we still get managed to accomplish them. And so there's still, unless there's an AI bot that will coach every person through their own hangups to make them achieve the things that they know they're supposed to do, knowing exactly how to do that, like there's still going to be management, there's still going to be oversight, there's still going to be leadership.
Right. Like I was at this event with this woman who's an executive for one of these AI companies in San Francisco, and she was talking about how she stopped going to her therapist because she's just using ChatGPT, and she looks super stressed. And I was like, I really think you need to go back to your
Go back to your therapist. Yeah,
like there's and she was like, I think you're right. And I was like, I just, I just think there's certain things that require a human. And in my head and heart, I think management is one of them, because also a part of it is being seen and feeling like you value to your boss. And I don't think a AI thing can do that, right? It's like that je ne sais quoi, right? That extra thing about like why people want to work for your company.
hopefully. Although I'm sure there are definitely people that want to work for a company that doesn't see anybody and doesn't have any oversight, but obviously that's not your bus.
Yeah, I think that those are the like really high volume, low value kind of family law firms, right? Where they're churning through a bunch of cases where they have less, they don't care as much about the day-to-day operations because of, the kinds of cases they're handling. And that's fine. I'm not saying that's bad. I think there's a bunch of really great family law firms that are massive that have that kind of, approach. It's just not my approach, right? Mine is we don't take on every case. We
Right.
careful about it. And so the work we do, we want to be, white glove for our clients and have this level of excellence. So it's just a different structure. And I don't think it's better or worse. It's just kind of, it works for me. Right.
Sure. Well, I mean, like, sort of off topic, sort of on topic. Like every time I walk into my gym, there is somebody behind the counter that like raises up the thing and I scan my phone on it. And I'm like, forget your job being replaced by AI. Your job could be replaced by a table. And I'm just like, how do you like not like I think we as owners need to be making sure our employees are upskilling themselves to stay relevant as other things become automatable, AIable, etc.
See, Jordan, I disagree. See, I'm somebody
Okay.
that goes to the gym and can't figure out how to log into my app in order for them to scan it. And so I'm really grateful that there's a human there that can be like, I can't figure out my password. And then they look it up for me. And then I have this interaction. And I'm so grateful because if at the grocery checkout there was just a little checkout dingy thing and no human, I probably would never be able to buy my shaving cream from Walgreens because I wouldn't figure out how to scan it correctly. So it's just part of my values. Like I love the human that's going to guide me through my life. So I want that for my clients and I want that for my employees. It's like I don't
Good.
because of my lack of ability, I guess, breeds this this passion for like the humanity of it all.
Well, it's not a lack of ability. I think that's too negative on yourself. Like, look, at the end of the day, what?
I said thank you.
Yeah, but like at the end of the day, somebody can go to LegalZoom and get the documents. They can walk into the courthouse and do it themselves. Like they can not get divorced and just, disappear and have their family track them down. Like I think all of us are looking for the right kind of person who wants the problem that we solved in the manner that we want to solve it.
Totally. And as you were saying, like we're not in the client business, we're in the employee business, right? So it's that same level of white glove we want our clients to feel. We most even more, more certainly, we want our employees to feel that and our humanity and to feel safe in their humanity at our companies.
Love it. All right, so we talk about next week's episode. We'll come back to wrap up. So next week, actually, this worked out well. Next week we had Tracy Goodwin on. I actually filmed Tracy's episode like 2 hours before this one. So Tracy and I talked about ADHD. She's got the, I believe, only ADHD focused legal conference, and how do you, as a business owner, position yourself to maximize your superpower of ADHD instead of getting overwhelmed from it, and then ultimately how that turns into living a better life with boundaries, with having other people, very similar to this conversation from a different perspective. Um, all right, so for people who want to see what you're talking about in action, continue to follow your journey, read some of those LinkedIn posts, maybe check out the hilarious blog if it still exists on the internet. No?
It does, but I'm unwilling to say.
Okay, no problem. So, how can people connect with you on the stuff you are willing to connect with them about?
I'll consider it. I'll consider it.
All
When
right.
you don't pass the bar the first time, there's a little like brooding vibes. But yeah, you can follow me on LinkedIn, Valerie Fenchel. I think that's probably the best way. And yeah, they can look at our website, I guess, FenchelFamilyLaw.com. I'm starting to, consider coaching family law firm owners too. And I think it's www.powerhouselawyer.com, I think.
Ooh, good wording.
I don't know. When you're pregnant, you have some good ideas too. There's some creativity that comes in, right? But
Never been pregnant.
oh, well, your wife has, so I'm sure
But my wife has good ideas all the time. So
hope she's listening.
yeah,
Okay.
she's not. It's like your blog, but
Right? It's okay. That's what happens, right? That's why we have to find our own people too, right?
very important. All right, Valerie, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you to everybody who watched and listened. We'll see you back here next week for Tracy's episode. In the meantime, go follow Valerie on LinkedIn and maybe put in place something small that will help you retain some talent so that you can continue to grow your firm.